A little custom project. This is Han Solo slash Stumpy. The reason it's partially Han Solo is because it used to look a lot different. It used to look a lot like a Han Solo blaster, and then I added a lot to it, and now I need to mute that. This is... There we go. Okay. But this is now pretty much Stumpy. It's just my own little custom Shorty M4 that I built out of complete scraps. So, pretty much it was pieced together by parts I had just laying around in order to just create a gun. It has just a weird, I don't know, a weird-esque thing about it. But today I'm going to be working on trying to get the semi-auto fixed, because the gun fires actually a lot better than it used to. Before it wouldn't even fire, and then I finally got it working right. But this is on semi, and then it just like locks up the trigger, so that's most likely to do with the trigger assembly slash cutoff lever, and then in full auto it goes fine, but it continues to lock up whenever I put it into semi. I have to like somehow fire it on full auto a few times, swap it to semi, but it'll always continue to lock up like that, like it's still in safe. Even though safe, it doesn't move at all. But I'm going to be working on trying to get that fixed. That is the main goal. So if you guys are having a similar issue, you're having issues with semi-auto, this video will probably help you guys out a little bit, as well as if you want to know how to take down a pretty much a standard. This is a JG receiver, so it does have a two-piece hop-up unit. So if you guys are wanting to know how to take it down with a two-piece, granted the two pieces are probably easier to take down than a one-piece sometimes. Well, not all the time, but because there is an extra step you have to take, then this video will probably help you out. I will see if there's anything that I need to upgrade on it and try that. But start off, just going to crack the receivers. Really, you don't need to take out the front pin, but I always do anyways. Lift up in the back. This is not a slide apart if you have a two-piece style receiver and hop-up unit. You have to lift up in the back to make sure that these pins come out, and then you rotate the gun downward, and then you can pull it out. That way you don't get anything caught or jammed up. You can see my little hop-up unit in there. It's using an Element hop-up unit, which are decent. I've seen better, but they work for just a good standard hop-up unit. Gonna be taking this. Well, I have to. This has a custom little wiring setup that I've done here in the back, so I'm gonna have to take off my battery bag, feed the wires through that little hole that I've cut. And this screw keeps coming loose for some reason. I need to put some Loctite on that. But that just comes right off. Take off the buffer tube. This wiring gets in the way sometimes. And right. Keep missing it. There we go. Just unscrew that. Get that all the way. There it goes. Where did that go? I don't need to lose that. I don't have very many of those. is. Just my little washer for the buffer tube. Okay. Now to take the grip off. Just a couple more Phillips heads. I actually have a lot of history with this gun, just because it's gone through a lot of iterations throughout the few years that it's been a project of mine. Just because it was the one gun that I've never spent any money on whatsoever. I've just built it out of spare parts that I had lying around my my work area, and just pretty much built it off of whatever parts I had on hand at the time, and it has been upgraded over the years. I've gotten better replacement parts to put in it. Like if I bought a GNP gearbox as a spare for a gun, I would take the current gearbox, which might have been a little better than the one that was in it, and put it in, and I'll upgrade the piston if I get a better one than what's in it every now and then, and put it in. It's running on my old Classic Army motor, which is actually a very nice motor. Actually, I think this is my VFC. This is my VFC motor that came out of my VFC Scar. So that's why it's still got quite a bit of torque to it. My old Classic Army motor is in my old Classic Army Scar. Just taking out the Phillips head screws in the bottom of the grip. Let's see. I need my other Phillips head screwdriver because I don't think the one I have fits. I have to use the small one. This isn't the same size screw as the other one. I think I ended up having to put a different screw in because I didn't have another one to replace it. Not even sure if that's working, but this one should. Yeah, there we go. I think. I'm not sure if that's turning or not. Yes, it is. Okay. That comes straight off. I might need to put a new screw in there. I think that one might have been stripped out, so I'll need to remember that. Little mag release. Who's that? Crested Gecko guy. I want to say that's Andrew, but I know that's not his account. But either way, hey, what's going on? No, it goes out the other way. I'm forgetting. Oh, yeah, with the two-piece, you have to remove these two little front screws holding down the bottom half of the hop-up unit. And then once you've done that, you can lift up on the gearbox, remove that bottom piece, and the gearbox should just come right out. Which I need to take off this back plate so I can get the wiring out. Sometimes it can be a little stubborn. You might have to force it a little in the back, especially if you're using a polymer receiver like this is. It's not metal. Metal ones normally come out just a little bit easier. But as far as the gearbox itself, first thing I'm going to look at for fixing semi-auto is the, I guess, cutoff lever and trigger assembly inside. But first things first, as always, when you're working with a gearbox, make sure it's unlocked, like so. That way, when you open it up, things just don't go flying everywhere. Oh, wait, Crested Gecko guy. That's Mason, isn't it? I don't know. I have so many friends with so many different accounts, I can't tell who is who anymore. I have, like, probably 3 or 4 YouTube accounts myself. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I actually know 2 other people who, one, his codename is Gecko, and the other one actually owns a Crested Gecko, so that sort of confused me a little bit. But hey, what's up, man? Where is my Allen keys? I just had them. What did I do with them? They're probably sitting right in front of me, and I'm blind. There they are. Okay. Alright. Yeah, it sort of confused me, because I just have a couple other friends who have, one a Gecko and the other one goes by Gecko. Just sort of threw me off there, because I know both of their account names, and I didn't think they changed it or not. But yeah, just doing a little bit of tech work. I'm trying to get to where I'm doing it live once again, just because I don't really have time to edit, render, and upload all that other stuff. If I do it live, it just automatically uploads what I'm currently doing to YouTube in just one long video, which some people prefer it not to be edited when you're doing a tech video. That way you can see just exactly what I'm doing the whole time. That way there's no questions on how do I do this. You see me doing it right in front of you. So that's always why I do it like this. And I need my... Where is it at? There it is. This little tool. I'm hoping that semi-auto isn't going to be too hard to fix in this. I'm hoping that I can put a new cutoff lever in, try that first, and then if that's not it, put a new trigger assembly in and see if that fixes it, because I know it's one of those two things. Those are the only things that really affect semi, since the selector plate is in perfectly working condition, as well as the actual lever on the receiver. And I put a ridiculously long spring in this gun for no apparent reason. It shoots actually pretty hard. I have not chronoed it since I did that last time, so I probably need to do that whenever I get the chance. As far as the parts that are in this gun, it's mostly GNP. For the gearbox, with the bearings and a lot of the other things. Need to make sure that I don't mess up the shimming, because the shimming is actually pretty solid on this gun. Okay. So now I'm just going to start taking apart everything, just getting it down to the cutoff lever and things like that. Also need to check the sector gear and make sure that it's actually engaging the cutoff lever. My guess is that it's actually not connecting with the trigger assembly like it's supposed to. So even though it's not hitting that trigger, I guess, contact the way it's supposed to when you go into semi-automatic fire. So first I'm going to make sure that it's actually in working condition. It does seem a bit stiff. It's not as loose as it should be. Oh yeah, when this gun has gone through a lot. It's gone through, I don't know just how much renditions of it, but it's pretty much, it's gone from being just pretty much a JG in a tiny little stumpy body to pretty much a GNP now, which is why it shoots a lot better now than it did. But it does look like there's a little bit of wear on the trigger assembly. I need to try and get this cutoff lever out, but it's a bit stiff, which might be my problem. There it goes. Yeah, it looks like there's been parts of the cutoff lever that just did not, I guess, get shaved down correctly in production. That little nub, if you guys can see it, right in between the little hook and the round part, is not supposed to be there. That is supposed to be a clean thing through. So, most likely that narrows it down to it being the cutoff lever. I'm gonna actually messed up my spring, but I should have a spare one of those. Yeah, the original gearbox on this gun did crack. That was that old JG gearbox that I was talking about. Like I said before, this gun was basically a JG backup gearbox inside a tiny body. That old gearbox shell did crack. I am still using the same gears out of that gearbox, though. These are still my same JG gears. I love JG gears. They're some of the strongest gears I've ever worked with. The difference is I just put everything else GNP. From the bushings, or the bearings, to the wiring, to the actual shell itself. It's got an 8mm GNP CNC aluminum shell now, which has been some of the best shells I've ever used. And the problem is, I just ran into this selector problem. The problem I keep having with this gun, though, has been in the hop-up. And for some reason, it just would not want to get a proper seal. It would be double feeding, and all that other stuff. But I finally got that to where it was working properly, which was a good thing. So now I just need to find a cutoff lever that's in good condition, that is going to work well. And this looks like it's going to be the winner. I think this actually is a GNP cutoff lever. But yeah, the difference I can easily tell when I'm holding them up next to each other is there's a chunk of metal that is sticking out on the one that was in it that is not on a new cutoff lever. So that just means it got messed up in production. Oh, that actually sucks, man. I've actually had a similar problem when I was working. I don't remember which gun it was, but one of the guns that's on my wall, which I can't really move the camera. I'm trying to get a second camera set up so I can actually do a face view if I ever have to show anything wide view, but I don't have that set up just yet. But I actually have had a similar problem like that. I had a gearbox crack pretty early on when I was playing Airsoft, and that's basically what forced me to learn to start teching and doing everything else. But now I've gotten to a point where I'm good at it. I am known as probably, I guess, the local tech for this kind of stuff. I was just working on a Stevens M4 the other day and found out that its spring broke and did all this other stuff to it. But I've seen just about everything as far as just flat out failures in Airsoft, and sometimes it's not even the person's fault. It could be a manufacturer's error, like what I'm running into here. It's this gearbox was straight from a G&P drop-in, and I just changed out the gears, and that cutoff lever was bad from the very start. I'm just hoping that this one fits. I don't know if it's going to. There it goes. Okay, there we go. What's going on, Golherm Gamer Mine Extremo? I think that's how you say that. Also, if any of the guys that are watching live have any kind of questions, I do have the chat thing open on my second computer, so I can answer them while I'm sitting here working, just because otherwise it's a little bit lonely. When I'm doing this, I can't really play my music or anything else like that, but oh well. It's not that big a deal. That cutoff lever looks like it's going to do a much better job. I'm hoping that it's not a combination of the trigger assembly and the cutoff lever. Okay, so that's on there. I'm going to go ahead and start putting back in the rest of the pieces. Shoots 230 FPS. That might not be a spring issue. That might be a seal, an air seal, or a connection between the air nozzle and the hop-up bucking. That has been a issue that I've seen a lot because of the cold. If you're using a rubber hop-up bucking, the cold will affect that and shrink it, which can greatly decrease your FPS. It might not even be your spring at all. I've had to replace a few hop-up buckings in a few of my guns. I've replaced them with silicone buckings, and that seemed to have fixed the problem right out. It could just be a seal problem with the air nozzle and the bucking, or normally for any kind of gearbox work that I do, just opening it up and either replacing something or anything like that, I do 20 just for that, and then to include like inspection of everything and anything else like that, it's 25, and then just it basically comes down to what it is. For just a spring change, I'd say just the standard 20 is normally what I do, as long as obviously the spring itself is extra, but normally I can order that, or the person that wants it can order that. And then just give it to me when they give me the gun. But normally I don't do too much for things like that. So normally, yeah, for just a spring change, especially on a KWA, since I have one of my own that I work on and know how they work, I'd say, yeah, just the standard gearbox work for 20. And if you want to talk about it more at another time, we can talk about it. I have a few different things that I do as far as different pricing and things, like for shimming and everything else like that. It's actually not that much more. It all just depends on what you want to do, but like I said, for just a spring change, yeah, just 20 is my standard, just because it falls under opening up the gearbox, and that's about it. And for an M4, that's not that complicated. It also depends on the type of gun. Other guns take a lot more work and things like that, which is why I have to charge more, just because it takes more time. But for an M4 on a KWA, yeah, 20. And I normally, whenever I have the gearbox open, I'll clean it out and things like that. As well as sort of check and see if there's anything else that needs upgrading or replacing anytime soon, like if your compression is a little bit off or anything like that. That normally falls under that 20. If it was doing it to you in the summer, I would say maybe it might be a compression issue. If it's always done that ever since you've had the gun, it might be a spring with a compression issue, or it might again be that seal between the bucking and the air nozzle. With KWAs, they don't, at least with a CQR, since that's actually what I own a CQR Mod 0, they don't have an air nozzle with a O-ring in it. So you lose a lot of compression with that, which is something I wish they would fix. It wouldn't be that hard to. They have a metal air nozzle, it just doesn't have an O-ring, and that sort of bugs me. I've already replaced mine, and things like that. See if I can get this situated, because the tappet plate on this is not the most cooperative. Same with the trigger. I put a very stiff trigger spring in this, so it's can be a little tricky to get to fit right. Like that. And this skin is going to be a little bit more of a pain to deal with right now, just because nothing wants to stay put. Mostly the trigger. If it would just stay still, I wouldn't have that much of an issue right now. There we go. All closed up. Trigger works. Air nozzle works. Piston is good. Yeah. I'm hoping there's still a game this weekend. Jared has talked about maybe having to cancel it just because of the ice and everything else. If it melts towards Saturday, there's going to be a lot of built-up water and things like that, which could be a little dangerous. So, as of right now, it's not looking likely that there's still going to be a game this weekend, but I'm still hopeful that there will be. With the ice storm that we just got, it's doubtful, but I hope it still happens, because I would sort of actually enjoy a snow game. It'd actually give me an opportunity to wear some snow camo, which just doesn't happen in Airsoft. I would actually really enjoy that. But, yeah, this Saturday, if there is a game, I'm definitely going to be there. Yeah, the problem I've seen a lot lately is batteries just don't tend to last as long in the cold. My lipos are even somewhat being affected. I'm not sure what the cause of that is or what, but that's why I have like probably 5 or 6 batteries just as a spare, just in case. But I also have like 10 guns sitting next to me that sort of most people end up using as backup guns anyway. I'm just gonna go ahead and stick all this back together. This has so many mix and match screws in it, it's ridiculous. We've got Phillips head, Allen head, torque heads, all in this one shell. Which, I think I actually have just a set of Allen head screws that I could put in this. But I'm just too lazy to get them out since I already have these just ready to go. And yet, it is sort of BS that they don't put an O-ring in them. I think they put an O-ring... Or no, because the CQRs use the same 2GX gearbox that the other KWA rifles use. So, I mean, the metal nozzle is solid, and it works perfectly for their 2-piece hop-up. But the problem is it only works for their 2-piece hop-up because it has a little notch cut out in it to make it so that it never turns, which is a good feature, but they didn't put an O-ring in it, and that sort of bugs me. They've been around long enough to where I don't know why they wouldn't. I mean, that just seems like a no-brainer thing to do nowadays. And I mean, they might have started putting O-rings in their new gearboxes. I would at least hope they would. I mean, the one that I have is at least a couple years old. And everything like that. Oh yeah, better barrel on Mox Suppressor. Yeah, that's normally one thing I would strive to go for as far as upgrades just right off the bat. And I can definitely understand about the money thing. I'm at tech, so money is a bit hard to come by. The only reason that I can work on things like this is just because I have spare parts just laying around, just ready to go for this kind of stuff. I mean, just in my cutoff levers alone, I mean, that's all the cutoff levers that I have, and that's not even saying about the rest of it, but that's just come off of things that I've bought in the past and upgraded, or things that I just bought and never ended up using, or I was supposed to use and forgot about it, which is a fairly common thing for me. Alright, so now gearbox is back together. Gonna go ahead and throw it back in, at least into the lower. I'm not gonna put everything back together just because I want to make sure that semi is working. So really I just need to put the grip on with the motor and see if it fires in semi. If so, that means my little fix will have worked, and that'll make me quite happy. Because I just want to make sure that this gun works. It's a backup. I have used it once in a game, so it's not the biggest heartbreaker for me if it doesn't work. But I would like to have it running just so a friend of mine can use it if they have to. Need to see if I can find another gearbox or motor screw. Like that. It's fine. If I were to be typing right now, I'd probably mess up too, because I'm streaming from my laptop, but I'm reading all of the like comments and things and watching to make sure that the stream is actually working on my main desktop, which is like across the room from me. So it's like I'm having to like look over and see what is being said. I really need to have it on my laptop and do it the other way around, but oh well. I just have to do the laptop because my webcam doesn't reach far enough. I really want this to work. That way I don't have to work on it anymore. I like working on this gun, but after so much, it can get a bit old. Just because I have had to work on this gun quite a bit lately compared to all of my other guns, which work perfectly fine, like my Scar. I love my Scar so much. I need to upgrade it here soon, though. I want it to be just a little snappier. Which most people would probably, if they know the gun that I'm talking about, would look at me and think I'm crazy for wanting it even snappier. But, oh well. I like snappy guns. They're fun. They heat up a motor ridiculously fast, but oh well. Like out at KartCon last couple weekends ago, it got ridiculously hot and almost burnt my hand. Which that was not much of a fun experience. Yeah, I mean, I want to get this gun up and working, because that would be pretty cool just to see this tiny little gun out kicking some major butt. Ugh, dadgummit. Just because it's always amusing to see this thing get kills, and if people know that they got killed by this, that's quite a demoralizer in my book. You got killed by the stumpy gun. Which to me is hilarious. Just mostly because I built it. Right now I'm just trying to get the motor plate back on. Which I just realized, if this does end up working, I'm going to have to take it apart again, because I have to put the hop-up piece back on, and I didn't think of that ahead of time. Dadgummit. I need to think things ahead through more. Alright, so it is back together. That's already a better sign, knowing that I've swapped it to semi and it is not locking up the trigger anymore like it was. Same thing with full auto, so now just my hope is that the gun fires correctly on semi-auto. Hook up my battery. And it does not. That sort of bugs me. And it's locking up again, too. That means it is in the trigger assembly, which means I'm going to have to probably put a new contact in it, which I think I have a spare of. Yes, I do. Okay, good. I sort of don't want to take this thing all the way apart again. I might just leave it in full auto for now. I also need to... Actually, I'm probably just going to replace the entire trigger assembly in it. Just because the trigger seems like it's getting stuck every now and then, and I don't want that. I want it to have a nice, crisp trigger response. Oh well. Guess I'm going to have to do a little bit more work on Stumpy here. / Han Solo. whatever people want to call it nowadays. I don't care. Oh well. So, actually, I'm going to end this stream just so that it uploads this video right off. And I'll probably do another video. Actually, I need to do some work on my GNP M4. Just because it keeps locking up and I need to figure out why. So, that'll be what's up next. I'm going to go ahead and set this to the side and bring out the GNP. So, I will be right back. If you are watching this, I hope you guys enjoyed. The next one will technically be like right after this, but I'm splitting it up just so that they don't run into each other and they don't end up too long. But just know if you're dealing with semi-auto problems, odds are check the cutoff lever first. If it's not the cutoff lever, it's your trigger assembly. So that's going to be what I'll be replacing next. And then I will do a small update video after I replace that to make sure it is, that was the problem. But thank you guys for watching this one. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, be sure to leave it in the comments below. And I'll see you guys next time.